Hello and welcome to Pabbly Connect. So in this video, we are going to discuss two new features of Pabbly Connect, that is auto re-execute and skip step. So if you're a Pabbly Connect user and you are tired of your failed execution of the automation workflow due to some application errors and you have to manually re-execute those workflows, then these two features are going to help you a lot and it might save you some of your tasks as well. So in this video, we will be discussing these two features. Right now on my screen, you can see I have created a simple automation workflow inside Pabbly Connect, where the trigger of my automation is webhook. I'm getting some data from the webhook. Then in action, we have API by Pabbly. We are getting some data using API by Pabbly. And at last, we are sending that data in a Google Sheet. Now here guys, we will go to the history of this automation workflow which I have created. Here you can see this automation workflow has been executed once, but it has failed. We will click on this task history ID. And here you can see the API by Pabbly action step has failed over here. This particular task is failed. As you can see, we have just clicked it, and the reason of this task, this action's failure was the invalid API secret key which we have entered. Now guys, according to our automation workflow, we have mapped the responses from API by Pabbly step to this Google Sheet step. And because the API by Pabbly action step has failed, this is why here you can see in this Google Sheet action step as well, it is showing us skip task. While executing this automation workflow, Pabbly Connect has skipped this action step over here. We can click here and here you can see skipped. This step did not run because it depends on a previous step that was not successful. Because the Google Sheet action step depends on the API by Pabbly step and API by Pabbly action step was not successfully executed, it was not successful. That's why it has now skipped this particular action over here. Here you can see this help text on learn mode, just click on it and in a new tab you can see it has taken us to the page on our forum. And at this page, you can see all the details regarding skip the module on the field step over here. And here it is mentioned that previously the entire workflow would be executed. Like previously, if an action step fails, the rest of the action step after and before it will be executed whether they are successful or failed. However, now with this skip step on failure feature, you can overcome this limitation and ensure smooth workflow execution. Now you can ensure that all the actions of your automation workflows are executed with the complete and proper data on which are dependent on the previous step. Like if the previous step fails, then the next action step or action steps will be skipped. They won't be executed. And only if the previous steps are basically successful on which the action steps are dependent or the steps from which we are mapping the data into the next step are successful, only in that case, the next step will be executed. If you want, you can go through this complete guide and you will know each and everything regarding this feature. Now, after the skip the step module, the next feature which we have is auto re-execute. Now, earlier we were able to re-execute our failed automation workflows by manually clicking on the re-execute button and selecting the entire workflow of failed or skipped step. Now guys, what you can do, you can basically automatically re-execute the failed automation workflows as well. Now to enable the re-execute setting, you just have to go to your automation workflow, click on these three dots and here you can see auto re-execution settings. Just click on it and here this box will appear in front of us. It is saying select the number of auto re-execution attempts, that how many attempts you want to make to auto re-execute your automation workflow. You have a full control on that as well. In the drop down, you can see the first option is 0. That is, if you want to disable this auto re-execution option, you can select 0 over here. Then you can basically make up to 5 attempts of automatically re-executing the failed task of your automation workflow. Like by default earlier, the auto re-execution setting of my workflow was 1 attempt. If any of the execution of my automation workflow fails, it will automatically make 1 attempt, 1 try to re-execute it. We will get back to our workflow history guys, that there is a failed execution. On 1555, this execution of my workflow was failed. Now we will click on this task history ID and because the re-execution attempt, auto re-execution attempt was set to 1, here you can see it has tried to re-execute this automation workflow once. It is showing us failed. this workflow re-execution has been failed and no further re-execution will be done. If you click on this option, here you can see the exact date and time, that at what date and time this automation workflow was automatically re-executed. So it made one attempt to re-execute this automation workflow, which was made on the same day at 16:05. The initial workflow execution was failed on 15:55 and the re-execution attempt was made on 16:05. Means exactly 10 minutes after the failed execution of the workflow. Now guys, here while setting up this re-execution feature, here you can see this learn more option. Just click on it and it will take you another page on our forum. At this page guys, you will see all the details regarding this auto re-execution of your workflow feature. And guys, as it is showing us that we have up to 5 attempts to automatically re-execute our failed or skipped steps. Now here guys, there is a time duration. There is a fixed time interval between each and every execution. You can read all the details regarding this auto re-execution feature on this page. And when we'll scroll down here, you can see it is written auto re-execution timing. The first auto re-execution, like I have selected one attempt, this means the first auto re-execution will be taken 10 minutes after the initial re-execution. It is mentioned over here that if the initial execution error occurs at 1 p.m., the first auto re-execution attempt will be made at 1:10 p.m., which is 10 minutes after the error. Like if we have selected one attempt, then it will only attempt to automatically re-execute the failed step only once. And that first attempt will be made after 10 minutes of the initial execution or initial error or initial failed execution. Then after that, if you have selected this attempt as 2, this means it is going to attempt to automatically re-execute the failed workflows twice. Like if for the first initial execution, if it fails, then after 10 minutes, it is going to make the first attempt. And after 1 hour of first attempt, like if in the first attempt as well, the execution fails, then it is going to make another second attempt of automatically re-executing the workflow. And that attempt will be made 1 hour after the first attempt. Then after that, if you select the number of attempts as 3 over here, this means automatically 3 times this automation workflow will be executed. After initial execution, if it fails, it will make the first re-execution 10 minutes after the initial execution. Then if the first execution fails, it will automatically make second re-execution, which will be 1 hour after the first execution. And if the second automatically made re-execution of the workflow fails, then because we have set the attempt limit to 3, it will make a third attempt to automatically re-execute the data. And the third attempt will be made 3 hours after the second attempt. After making the second attempt, it will wait for 3 hours, and after 3 hours, it will make the third attempt. If we select or set up the attempt as 4, then the fourth attempt will be made 6 hours after the third attempt. And the final and the fifth attempt, if we have selected auto re-execution attempt as 5, we want to make 5 attempts to automatically re-execute the failed task. In that case, guys, the fifth and the final re-execution attempt will be made 9 hours after the fourth attempt. After the fourth attempt is made, it will be waiting for 9 hours, and after 9 hours, the fifth and the final attempt will be made. And this is the final re-execution attempt, and no further re-execution will happen of this automation workflow. So guys, here in this way, you can basically set up an automation. You can automate the process of re-executing your failed task as well. And you can set up the number of attempts, number of automatic re-execution you want to make for your failed task. Now here guys, there are some rules for this re-execution as well. Like you can set up the auto re-execution attempts according to your choice over here. Like if you want to disable it, keep it to 0. And you can select any number of attempts up to 5 of your choice, that how many times you want to attempt to automatically re-execute the failed or the skipped step of your automation workflow. Now here guys, before we start with some of the fundamental rules of this auto re-execution feature, let's test this feature. Let's check this feature once. This is the automation workflow which we have created. I'm going to go to the auto re-execute settings, and we are going to change the attempts to 5 attempts and save it over here. So right now this automation workflow was executed only once. So we have this webhook URL in the trigger. Now what we are going to do, we are going to make another submission. We are going to trigger this automation workflow and we are going to make another execution, which will be definitely a failed execution because we are checking, we are understanding this auto re-execution feature. And after doing so, what we are going to do, we will be basically testing or checking this auto re-execution and how it actually works. So I will just copy this webhook URL from here, paste it in a new tab, and I will send some data in this webhook URL. For example, I'll just send an email over here. And we have sent some data to this webhook URL. As we send the data, we will see this workflow, this automation workflow will be executed over here. And the execution is done. So here you can see this just now at 17:07, this automation workflow was executed and it has failed. We will just click here and here you can see it is showing us re-execution. The auto re-execution of the failed step is scheduled to be done at 11 September 2023 at 17:17 over here. So the workflow was initially failed at 17:07 means 5:07 p.m. And auto re-execution, the first auto re-execution will happen after 10 minutes, that is 17:17. So what we will be doing, we will wait for a few minutes or few hours and we will check that at what time interval and how many times this automation workflow will be re-executed. Okay, so now we have waited for a few hours. Now we are going to click on this task history ID and we are going to check the log of re-execution. Here the re-execution says the auto re-execution of the failed step is scheduled to be done at September 12, 2023 at 12:17. So the initial execution, the first execution of this workflow was at 5:07. Now here we'll click on this re-execution log and here you can see after the failed first execution, after the initial execution was failed, the first re-execution was done at 11th of September at 17:17, that is 5:17 p.m. This means 10 minutes after the field's initial execution, the first re-execution was made. Then after that, the second re-execution was made at 18:17, means 1 hour after the first re-execution. The first re-execution failed, then it made the second re-execution, which was 1 hour after the first re-execution. Then after that, the second re-execution also failed and it made the third re-execution at 11th September 21:17. This means 3 hours after the second re-execution. The third re-execution also failed, so it made the fourth re-execution attempt and the fourth re-execution attempt was made at September 12 at 3:17, which is 6 hours after the third re-execution. And because the fourth re-execution also failed, so it is going to make the fifth and the last re-execution at 12:17 on 12th of September. That is 9 hours after the fourth re-execution. In this way, using auto re-execution, if the re-execution actually makes success, if all the steps are executed successfully, then it won't be making another or further re-execution, but it will make at max 5 re-execution and it depends upon the re-execution setting, auto re-execution settings which we have selected. We have selected 5 attempts, so it is going to make 5 attempts over here. So in this way, auto re-execution actually works. Now after this, we'll go to the documentation and we are going to learn about some of the fundamental rules of this auto re-execution feature. The first one is the maximum number of re-execution. This feature, this module actually allows a maximum of 5 re-execution. Whether you can trigger those re-executions manually or you can automate it, but it has a limitation of maximum 5 re-execution. The second rule is logging and display of re-execution time. Regardless of whether re-execution are automatic or manual, the module logs and display the timestamp of each re-execution. So here, for each and every re-execution, it is going to make a complete log over there. Then here the next rule is manual re-execution capability. The manual re-execution feature works independently of auto re-execution settings on the workflow level. Users can manually trigger a re-execution for a specific workflow execution, irrespective of whether the auto re-execution settings are enabled or disabled as whole. So here guys, if you have not enabled or if you have disabled your auto re-execution settings, still you can manually re-execute your automation workflows over here as well. Then the next rule says respect for workflow level auto re-execution settings. Different workflows in your Pabbly Connect account can have different auto re-execution settings. You can select the number of attempts, or you can enable or disable the auto re-execution feature for each and every workflow. Then after that, the next rule over here says handling successful workflow step. If all the steps within a workflow are already marked as successful, either during the initial execution or during a re-execution, the module will not initiate any further manual or automatic re-execution. This behavior prevents redundant re-execution when the workflow has already achieved its desired outcome. So if all the steps are successful, then you cannot re-execute the step over here. Then after that, here it says impact of auto re-execution settings change. Suppose the auto re-execution setting is initially disabled for a workflow and the initial execution takes place resulting in failure. If the user later decides to enable the auto re-execution settings, the specific workflow execution that failed will not be auto re-executed. Instead, manual intervention is required. So, before enabling the auto re-execution settings, if any initial execution has failed before enabling auto re-execution, that particular execution or those number of particular execution will not be automatically re-executed. You would have to manually re-execute them. The next feature is enabling auto re-execution settings for executed workflows. In case where the auto re-execution settings is initially disabled or set to 0, executing the workflow will not trigger automatic re-execution, even if the setting is subsequently changed to enable or if auto re-execution attempt is greater than 0. However, if the user first enable the auto re-execution settings and then manually re-execute the workflow, subsequent auto re-execution will adhere to the specified auto re-execution settings and they will be carried out as per your auto re-execution settings. So after enabling auto re-execution, if you manually try to re-execute any of your workflow execution, it will be count as the attempt in auto re-execution over here. Then it says impact of auto re-execution in case of workflow includes a delay step. So if you have added some kind of delay steps in your automation workflow, then the auto re-execution will start once the complete execution of the workflow is done. This means, for example, if you have a delay of 6 hours and the step before the delay or after the delay fails, then you have to first wait for the complete workflow to execute. You have to wait for that delay to end and you have to wait for all the steps to proceed or all the steps to execute. And after that, the auto re-execution will take place. The last rule over here is a number of automatic or manual re-execution attempts. So here you can see different cases related to the number of re-execution, whether it's manual or automatic, that you can attempt over here. So this is the complete document to which you can refer to know more about this auto re-execution feature. So guys, I hope this video was helpful to you and you had a better understanding of these two new features of auto re-execution and skip step. If you have any kind of further doubts or queries, you can write us in the comment box below. So this is it for today's video. Thank you. Have a great day.